Hey gang, welcome to Your Marriage Matters with Jim and Christie Jacobus. Our goal is to help you lay the foundation of building the marriage and life you both have always dreamed of. Welcome to Your Marriage Matters with Jim and Christie Jacobus.
Well, hey there, gang. It's Jim
and Christie
Jacobus with Your Marriage Matters, episode number 118. And today we're going to talk about what it takes to pull off an incredible journey
and marriage
of a lifetime. Absolutely, we're going to do that today. First thing, if you're here for the first time, welcome. Glad to have you here. We're going to talk about today what it took for Christie and I to pull off a journey that went all the way from Arlington, Texas to where we're sitting right now in Bar Harbor, Maine. Mm-hmm. And we're actually in our Joy Hauler parked, and you can't see right out here, but there's a bay just right outside this window. And it took an awful lot to get here. So if you're here for the first time, you're going to get to hear what it took to do that journey. But babe, we're also going to talk about how that correlates with what it takes to build an incredible marriage.
Right. Some of the same things that we've learned in doing this journey really do speak a lot to marriage. And so today we're going to talk about not just the journey, but 5 mindsets that came along with the journey that lead to a better, healthy marriage.
Absolutely. And quite frankly, I think those came before the incredible journey did.
Right.
And for those of you who've been with us from the very start, you know we have been on an incredible journey. Going from owning a sticks and bricks house to now living full-time in this beautiful RV, traveling all over the country. As a matter of fact, I did want to kind of, babe, go over all of the places we've been. It's kind of incredible. We look back over it. I wrote this down, so apologize for looking at my notes, but I wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything, because a while ago when I wrote it down, I actually missed one of our stops. So we started off at Treetops RV Resort in Arlington, Texas, then to Mount Pleasant KOA, Lake Catherine State Park near Hot Springs, Arkansas, and then Natchez Trace State Park in Tennessee, Diamond Caverns, Thousand Trails near Mammoth Cave in Bowling Green, Kentucky, Charlestown State Park, which is on Indiana, but just on the other side of the border from Louisville, where we went to the Kentucky Derby. Mm-hmm. Went to Churchill Downs. I'm saying we didn't go to the Kentucky Derby. Went to Churchill Downs and visited it. One of my favorite stops along the way. Mohican State Park in Loudonville, Ohio. Beautiful, beautiful state park. Gorgeous place. From there to Niagara Falls. Talk about beauty to beauty. Niagara Falls KOA and Niagara Falls, New York. Cooperstown KOA in Cooperstown, New York, or right outside of Cooperstown. Then we went to Rondout Thousand Trails Park in New York as well. Moody Beach Thousand Trails Park in Maine. Finally got to Maine, finally. And then we wound up here at Narrows 2 Thousand Trails Park, and we are just outside of Bar Harbor, Maine. Babe, that is a little over 3,700 miles. Mm-hmm. Okay, you might look at that and go, wait a minute, that's not 3,700 miles. If you count all the driving we did with just the truck, 3,700 miles, 11 stops in 10 states. Right. Now that is an incredible journey.
That's a lot of time together in the cab of a truck.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a lot of great talking time for us as well.
It did.
But gang, we are going to talk about the things that it took to pull that off. All right. And as I said a while ago, I think, babe, it's the same 5 things that it took for you and I to have this marriage that we have.
Right.
All right. Now, I don't think it's perfect by any means, because we're not perfect, but I do think we have an incredible marriage, and there's 5 specific mindsets that I think are important for all this to take place.
Right.
Now, the first one is we did have a shared vision for this trip. All right. And Christie's going to tell you about what her vision was, and I certainly was excited about that vision as well, because we're going to see some amazing things while we're here. We've seen some amazing things along the way. But for me, babe, my vision for this trip was it was our first long trip in the RV as full-time RV people, learning to hook it up, unhook it, get it squared away in a real wide variety of circumstances, traveling all kinds of roads, running into all kinds of challenges. Just what would it take to live in a 430 square foot beautiful RV pulled by a Ram 3500 dually. I was excited for me to learn all of the skills and mindsets and tactics that it took to pull off a journey like that. I was excited about that.
Right.
You were a little more excited about a couple of. I know you were excited about those as well.
Right.
Because you're excited about full time. But what were the things what was your vision for this? And I certainly shared in that. What was it? Why did you want to do this?
Well, there was a couple of things that when we planned this out, we at one time were going to not do this journey because of COVID, and we decided we're going to take the precautions and everything, but our ultimate destination was, of course, Maine, but we wanted to enjoy the steps along the way, and we really have. I think we were on different mindsets of like how we would do it, but when we came together with a plan, it really sounded like something that we could both agree on and get behind. Yes, there was the aspect of living full time in the RV, but the other thing is whether we were in a home like this or a home like you said that's sticks and bricks, we still had to get together and kind of decide how we were going to do this. The other thing that was a goal for me is, of course, I wanted to see all 50 states.
Right.
My goal for the longest time was to see all 50 states by the time I was 50. Well, that ship has sailed. But Maine was certainly one of those states, New Hampshire and Rhode Island. So being able to check one of the things off my bucket list was important. But going back to that shared vision, you and I collaborating on this together to make sure that the journey was positive for both of us was important to both of us too.
Right.
So
yeah, and I think, babe, sometimes I don't know about you guys out there, but when we've struggled in the past, it's because we had visions, but they weren't shared.
Right.
Now, it doesn't mean that we have to have the same vision, all right? But we have to share those visions and support each other. I have some visions of my own, and you support me. You have visions of your own, I support you. But I think too many times, gang, I don't know if you struggle with this or not, but do you have enough shared visions where you're both on board with something that you want to accomplish, something you want to do? And I think that's where a lot of couples struggle, babe. Do you see the same thing?
Yes, and one of the things that you just pointed out, we might have different ideas or things that we want to do, different missions or different visions, but we had to come together, because if all of a sudden I wanted to go to Washington State and you wanted to come here, that's not going to work. So sometimes you have to compromise and get on the same page about what your vision's going to be.
Yeah, and again, we've already talked about how we might do trips different in the future based on what we've learned here.
Exactly.
But gang, in about 10 days' time, we saw Mammoth Cave, we saw Churchill Downs, which again I'm going to say is one of my favorite of the trip. We saw Niagara Falls. We went to the Football Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame, and what's the one I'm leaving out?
The your favorite. Woodstock.
Oh, Woodstock. Yeah, we went to see Woodstock, and that one actually did kind of take me back. I mean, that was what a great deal of those. So when you're doing that, there's all kinds of work that needs to be done, and babe, it requires some shared vision, and it requires a respect for the division of labor.
Exactly. And in doing this, whether you're on the trip like we're on, or in any time where you're working together to make a household work, ours just happens to be on wheels, you have to respect the division of labor.
Right.
There is a lot of responsibilities that is put on you, because I physically probably couldn't do it. I cannot imagine having to back this big old mammoth beast up into some of the parks and drive through some of the conditions you did. And so I respect and appreciate what you do in regards to that, because while I don't want to say I couldn't do it, you are much more talented and gifted to do that than I am.
Well, thank you, sweetie. I
so
appreciate
I think the other thing that I have to do around here is more of the traditional female roles, like the cleaning and the cooking, and today I get the fun task of laundry. So both
I'll tell you what, I'll let you do the laundry and trade that out for driving and backing this thing up any day of the week. I think that's part of what you're talking about, though, is really respecting what the other one does, because that's not something I want to do. I know you don't either, but at the same time, it's about respecting that. I think too many times I see couples that struggle, and again, I don't know if you do or not. If you do, don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know, or ask any questions you want to. You can do that on our Facebook group, Your Marriage Matters. You can go to yourmarriagematters.com and leave a question there if you want. But I see so many couples struggle because he or she, either one, feels like, well, I make all the money, all right? Well, I take care of the kids, and those tend to be, you know, men, women. But reality is, I couldn't do the things I do without your support, your appreciation, and the work that you do around here. I mean, this is a beautiful RV, and you know, sometimes I may back the trailer into something, and you go, wow, that was incredible, and I'm going like, I didn't think it was anything. Well, the other day I was looking at our bedroom in there, and I went, babe, you just made this beautiful. And you were like, oh, but I still have other things I want to do too. And so I really admire the things you do that make this such a beautiful place. And you admire the things that I do, like back in the trailer and stuff like that. And quite frankly, I think both of us do a really good job of that. And too many couples, I don't think, appreciate the contribution of their spouse. Right. And take the time to tell them about it.
Right. And we've oftentimes told couples there are things and challenges you have to do in your home.
Yeah.
And it can be divided up so that you have a plan.
Right.
The he, she share together.
Right.
We set up the trailer together.
Right.
We set
Yes.
up the electricity,
Yep.
the water, the sewage. We set that all up together. And then there's some things that actually we could spend the money on. And we've done that before, like washing the rig and stuff.
Right.
So when it comes to the division of labor, one of the things we found that can help our couples is to actually have a written plan that said, this is my duties, this is your duties, this is what we're going to share and do together. And then here's something that we're going to spend the money on as an investment in our marriage so that we can have more time together, or we can just put one of the annoyances to rest. So.
Well, you know, you said something, I forgot about it. We didn't talk about this as we were prepping for the show today. But at one point in time, we would back it in, get it all squared away. I would do everything outside, and then you would come in and do the inside. And you actually asked me, would it be helpful if I helped you on the outside first? And so we had one way we did it, and then we shifted over where while I was unhooking and leveling, you were getting out the water, the electricity, and if we're going to do sewer, you're going to getting all those buckets out, bringing them around to that side, start to plug the water in while I'm doing all of that. And quite frankly, that's made it so much easier and faster for you to then be able to come inside and do the stuff on the inside and me finish up outside. You're asking, can I help you do that? Would that be possible, or would that be helpful? And I was like willing to go, yeah, that would be helpful. You know, no, I got this. You know, no, I said that would be helpful. And I think our setup process has gone much smoother because of that.
Right, right.
So anyway.
And another thing for our couples out there that sometimes arises, we have certain things that I don't do, and one of them was driving the truck, because there are certain
you didn't do, not don't do, you didn't do.
I didn't do, and
but you've done it now.
And I think it's important that I am able to do all of the tasks that you can do. I might not be able to do them as well, but for our couples out there, it might be one of those things that you always do it because you're better at it than me.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean that the other person's off the hook and can't learn it. And I certainly do want to get better at driving it, and maybe even one of these days backing into a relatively easy parking space.
In a Walmart parking lot,
there
maybe.
You go. There you go.
Anyway, and again, what you hear from us right now is also another mindset that we think is really important. I don't spend a lot of time on it, but we assume the best of each other. I assume Christie's doing her best in here. She assumes I'm doing our best out there. We both assume each other's got our best interest in mind, and I think, babe, that's come from the shared revision and respect we have for each other's division of labor.
Right.
I think we constantly assume that the other one is doing the best.
Right. And we're doing something that everybody else isn't doing. We've made the intentional choice to spend more time around each other.
Yeah.
And being in a confined spot like this with things that can come up that are challenges can bring up irritations and just the day-to-day frustrations that happen. And if I always assume that you're doing the very best that you can, just like you would assume that I'm doing the best I can, then it kind of negates some of the challenges that people can have just because they're irritated. I'm not necessarily irritated at you, but it's irritating sometimes to have to deal with some of the things that arise.
I don't know what you could be talking about. But I think you're dead right there. And part of that is, I think the more we spend time around each other, the more we know the other's doing their best. We just know that. And again, I think that's something I think people struggle with. that leads me to the next one is we've certainly learned to laugh and smile and almost just grin internally so loud it's like a laugh at some of the things we've seen, some of the places we've been. Sitting last night out by the fireplace looking out over the bay and everything. I mean, we had a great moment or two last night just chatting and talking about everything that's gone on. But, I mean, I've had memories on this trip that, you know, they're just amazing. You know, Churchill Downs was number one in the running for the longest time because we got to watch the horses warm up on Monday morning, the week of the Derby. But then we went to Woodstock. Man, there was just something about that place that took me back to high school and high school experiences and memories and the music and the diversity of all of that. That was just, I mean, it was awesome. And I know that we laughed a lot, smiled a lot, hugged a lot, kissed a lot. Those have meant a lot to me. What have been some of your more favorite memories?
I think some of the things, like you've said, the places that we visited, Niagara Falls. If you've seen Niagara Falls, it is amazing. And to go up right next to the falls and feel the power of the water. And
I could not believe we got that close.
I know.
That blew me away.
I know. And so I loved Niagara Falls. I loved seeing the horses that were going to be riding in the Kentucky Derby. We didn't see the Kentucky Derby, but we did see some horses that made me feel compelled to go bet on them because I just felt we had a kinship. Not so good.
Here's a tip: don't pick out horses because you saw them warm up on Monday before the race.
Yeah, they didn't even come.
You were bonded with them,
So, but I think some of the things that have been so special about this trip is just seeing the amazingly beautiful countryside. It is just, I've said this 1,000 times, America is a beautiful land. And it was throughout this trip that we've been on. And so, yes, there's been places that we've gone. The Corvette Museum was a mammoth cave.
With Jim Jacobus. I met a friend on Facebook whose name was Jim Jacobus. We became friends on Facebook, and when we were in Bowling Green, we met up with he and his wife, and we went to the Corvette Museum. Yeah, and it was incredible.
Jim and Molly were so much fun. And to have a connection with people just based on the fact that you share their name was really cool. So I think one of the things that I've loved about this trip is just all the different experiences that we've had. Of course, we've seen amazing things and had different experiences, tasted different foods, but I think also in learning to laugh at each other, there's been some challenges. There's been some weather that we've had to get away from. Yeah. We've had to be concerned about fuel running low. We've had to worry about pulling this trailer through all types of windy roads. We're coming from Houston where things tend to be flat.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Have we seen some up and down?
And up and down
left
and
right.
curves and everything. So learning to laugh each other with mistakes. The trailer got its very first ding and stuff, and it was
we didn't have to talk about that.
It's just part of learning to learn from your mistakes and move on. Yeah,
you know, I have to give credit. When we first started thinking about all of this, we were watching a number of different YouTube channels. There's some great ones out there. Changing Lanes, The Odd Couple, Mark and Trish Leach with Keep Your Daydream. Babe, I remember one of the first videos we watched with them. It said, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Learn to laugh at them, learn from them, and move on.
Exactly.
And I mean, that was before we even got the first trailer, I think. And then the very first time we dumped our black tank, I didn't realize that I needed to close the black tank before we opened up the tube that goes outside. And so when I opened up the tube, a bunch of that stuff just came flying out of there. And we've made a lot of mistakes. Mm-hmm. Some have just been mistakes out of not knowing any better. Mm-hmm. Some have been just physical, mental mistakes and things like that. But I think we've done a great job. And this would be a new skill set, I think, for us, or a new intentional skill set, was learn to laugh at, hey, look, made a mistake. Here's what I learned from that. Not going to do it again. And just move on. Mm-hmm. And not just dwell on it or be irritated by it. Irritated with each other by it, irritated ourselves for a day or two by it. we've just learned to do that. And I think that's been a great learning process for
Right.
us.
And for our couples out there, I think that's one of the things that can be...
Boy, could we pass that on? That would be fun, wouldn't
Right. A great skill is to learn to laugh and see the humor in some of the stuff that we've encountered. I know things in the United States right now are so difficult for a lot of people, and I hate to tell them to make light of something that's very difficult. But there's been some things that we had to look at and just go,
ruh-roh.
My bad. Whoops, by the way, you needed to turn right there. Like last night. Whoops, that's where your turn was. So,
yeah. Where do I turn next? Oh, right here to the left, out of the right-hand lane.
Yeah, there you go.
Babe, really?
Okay.
And by the way, you know, again, that happens. Stuff like that happens in a marriage. And I think when we learn to laugh at it and learn from it, not laugh at it and move on, but learn from it and then move on, that's actually a great thing for a marriage, because we're human. We're all going to make mistakes in a relationship. Even after 33 years, we still make mistakes. In a relationship, we make mistakes.
Right.
We both assume the best. We both have a shared vision, but sometimes we just mess up. And we got to learn from that stuff. Sometimes we laugh at it. Sometimes we might grieve over a mistake even, but we got to move on.
Right.
And I think all of that takes us to number 5 here, which I think we've done a good job on this trip. I thought we did a good job before, but on this trip, I think we've been really intentional about being grateful.
Right.
About praying together every morning, but then praying at meals, being thankful at night, telling each other how much we appreciate each other. That's meant a lot to me, and I think it's meant a lot to our marriage. How do you feel about that?
Well, the whole thing about an attitude of gratitude is one of those things that can really refocus you on what matters the most. To keep an optimistic attitude can be difficult. It can be difficult in the midst of everything that's going on. But we have so much to be thankful for. Even when you had COVID and we were really struggling with your physical health and exhaustion and things, that we still had so much to be thankful for. Thankful that while you had what I thought was a pretty bad case.
Doctors didn't think it was all that bad.
You're mild. Like, I'd hate to see the bad ones.
No kidding.
But it wasn't bad enough that you needed to be hospitalized. And I think there's so many times where we just look around and we just say, I'm not comparing myself to other people. I just know, God, that I have so much to be thankful for. I just know that there is so much out there that I want to appreciate. And it's the beauty in nature. And of course, we're in a place that is beautiful. But our hometown, Houston, had a lot of things around it. I would drive into Greatwood all the time and just go, this is such a pretty community. And I worked for a great hospital, and I worked for a great counseling center. We had wonderful friends. So there is so much to be grateful for. And sometimes in our daily frustrations, or you watch the news enough, you get frustrated, you get down, but there is still so very much to be grateful for. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And how many turns did we make where one or both of us went, oh wow, wow, up a hill, down a hill, something revealed, a lake, a hillside, a view over a valley. I mean, just countless times, hundreds of times over the last couple of weeks. We do live in a beautiful country. We've met some great people too.
Yes.
We've just enjoyed all kinds of beautiful stuff, and again, we have so much to be thankful for. I think we all do. Just our health, as you stated, and everything is really important. So, gang, first thing, we appreciate you. We really encourage you to go join us on our Facebook group, Your Marriage Matters. We're going to be doing a lot more of these kinds of things here in a little bit. We're going to be shooting a video of the entire rig that we want to share with you and let you see where we're living, and so many of you are curious about that. We're going to be doing videos of places we're staying. I see another YouTube channel and another Facebook group popping up out of this for full-time RVers. But we so appreciate you. There were 5 things here that we talked about. First thing is a shared vision that Christy and I have. Not the same vision all the way through, but a shared vision for getting here. Respecting each other's contribution, assuming the best of each other. Certainly learning to laugh at all the fun things, but even learning to laugh at the mistakes we make, learn from them and move on, and then just learning to be grateful. And babe, there's nothing on this planet I'm more grateful for than I am for you. You have all of those things and many, many more mindsets that makes my life so rich. I love you. I adore you. And I can't wait to see what's next.
I know. And as we look over the beautiful view of Maine, as we shared last night with each other.
Right out that window. I'll take a picture and put it in there somewhere.
As we shared with this has been a wonderful trip, as many others that we've done together. And it is so neat to have a partner like you and a traveling buddy like Marley, our yellow lab who's sitting outside, to go on this journey with. So, and I love you.
God bless you guys. We'll catch you next week. Take care.
Thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Your Marriage Matters with the Jacobuses. And if you enjoyed the podcast, we encourage you to share it with your friends. We are growing like crazy because you are passing it on. So thank you. That's it for today. We'll see you next week on Your Marriage Matters. Have a great conversation this week.